I want to talk about give a bit of an update on the Israeli-Gaza conflict. But the angle I want to talk about, other than just giving a bit of an update on where we are on things, is that I'm sort of sick of it, profoundly sick of it. My take is that it's to say, because I don't think there's enough voices out there saying it, that it's not our war, and by our I mean Englishmen. I can't talk for Americans, can't even talk for a Scotsman or a Welshman or an Irishman. I'm an Englishman. It's not my war, it's not our war. I don't want to see the RAF involved in it. I don't want the spill out of it onto our streets. That's how I feel about it. Everyone, it seems, if you're terminally online or you watch a lot of TV, sort of trying to insist that you have to pick a side. No, I'm not going to pick a side. No, everyone from the Daily Wire to Navarra, everyone from Ben Shapiro to Ash Sarkar, you have to pick a side. You have to pick a side. No, I'm not going to pick a side. I'm an Englishman. No, it's not my war. It's your desert feud, I'm afraid.
It's completely disrupted the right sort of wing in America. It's completely sort of fragmented them, hasn't it? You say about Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro, I mean, they've completely fallen out over this entire situation.
Well, just to make it clear, I mean, I would like to see Hamas absolutely wiped off the face of the earth to a man. Yeah, I would like to see that. It's not that I've got no moral compass, but I'm not on the Israeli side, so to speak, either. Right? It's an interminable religio land conflict that's not really got. It's not got anything to do with England. No, it's not our war. We've got our own problems. That's the angle I'm increasingly take. Some people will try to say, but what about the Sykes-Picot Agreement, or what about the Balfour Declaration? What about Arthur Balfour? It's like, okay, that was World War One.
The empire's over, bro.
It's
been over for a while.
Yeah, it's like literally over 100 years ago now, where we liberated that part of the world from the Ottoman yoke. You're welcome, by the way, for that. And then when we realised it was just an endless... No, you're welcome. You're welcome.
It's just such... Would you rather be colonised by Turks or the Brits? And it's like, well, if I've got to pick one...
yeah. You're seemingly unable to throw the Ottoman yoke off for about 400 years, and we've done that for you real quick. So, don't worry about it.
You're just one of many to us.
And then when we realised it was sort of completely ungovernable, and that both sides were sort of implacable psychos about it, we just got out of there. So there's a tiny window of time in 13 odd, 14 odd 100 years. There's a tiny little window there of 50 odd years where the British were involved under the auspices of the League of Nations and things. So no, we're not really involved in it. No, so look, the Jewish people claim that bit of land because God gave it to Moses at Mount Sinai, and then the Muslims via right of conquest in the 7th century also claim it. Not really got anything to do with England.
Let's crack on.
And the government in Westminster. Leave us out of it. That's what I feel like. So anyway, if you put up, what's the first link I've got there, John? Just a map there. So again, if anyone, it's the Gaza Strip. So Hamas claim, it's not just the Gaza Strip, is it? Hamas claim that all of Palestine, their definition of Palestine, so all of Israel should be theirs. They would completely dissolve, for want of a better word, Israel, or as their overlords in Tehran say, they would roll Israel into the sea. Well, from the river to the sea, that's what they say, don't they? From the River Jordan to the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. I don't really necessarily blame Netanyahu for saying, no, we've got to completely win. We've sort of got to completely win. There's no other way. I mean, what that really means, is it possible to win? What does that really mean?
It's killing a lot of people, including civilians.
Yeah.
I think the last numbers I saw, so there's this huge debate about it. You've got to get involved because of the humanitarian crisis. So this is the argument made. And I think, so it's the Ministry of Health for Gaza. So the Israelis say, well, that's run by Hamas, so don't bother. But they say there's something like 40,000 people have been killed. But then when you ask the Israelis, well, how long is it going to take until the real number is that number if you don't believe this one? And it's like, well, eventually. So, okay, whatever.
Sometime.
So, either way, we're looking at least 1% of the population is dead. That's I guess, the cost. That's their pitch. And therefore, you should care because of the 1% of Gaza has been killed.
The thing is, there's so many conflicts all around the world all the time. I mean, the slave trade at the moment is the biggest it's ever been, isn't it? As far as I'm aware, in like Kenya and Libya and things like that. It's like slave trade's absolutely massive at the moment. We're not constantly parroting about that non-stop all day, every day. I mean, yeah, like war's awful. Of course it is. People are enslaved and have been for a very long period of time currently at the moment. I guess this is just Ukraine, Russia and Ukraine. That was the thing. That was the round-the-clock thing. And sort of backed into the distance now. Now we got this. It's just the thing, isn't it? It's the current thing.
Yeah.
Do you think it maybe has? Do you think it maybe has something to do with the fact that we're part of the Anglosphere? Because I mean, we used to be the global hegemon. That's gone, long time, and the Americans are the global hegemon. So anything that happens, everyone is obviously looking to them because they're the only one with the power to decide if it goes one way or the other.
Yeah, they're supposed to be the police of the world, and also they give an insane amount of quote unquote aid to the Israelis, don't they?
I mean, again, that's a choice for the American public because it's meant to be a republic. But it's I wonder whether or not we get dragged into this via that.
Yeah, because our foreign policy is just what the Americans tell us it is.
Basically.
Yeah.
I think we sent all our challengers to Ukraine, or at least half of them. It was just like, why?
Yeah.
Why the Americans said they needed tanks, so we gave them tanks.
Then I wonder how quickly that's going to change if Trump gets in power then. Because, I mean, if anyone's going to break the sort of the mold of aid and, I don't know, policies on these kind of wars, it'll be him. So if he gets in power, are we just going to suddenly fall in line?
Probably. We'll do whatever the State Department tells us. Whether the State Department's doing exactly what Trump wants is something a bit different. But yeah, I'm like, the Pentagon and the State Department decide America's foreign policy with however much influence from the president himself. And then we fall in line with that. Nearly always. There's one example I can think of when Obama wanted to bomb Assad, change the regime, and we had a quick vote in Parliament, and
Parliament miraculously voted no.
Actually voted against it. Yeah.
Everyone was actually quite confused, being like, what?
Yeah.
We make decisions, do we?
Yeah, Ed Miliband actually did something good for once. The only time I can think of. But apart from that example, we nearly always do whatever we're instructed to by the chiefs and the State Department.
So I remember actually being quite weird that we even had a vote. People were like, they're having a vote.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Rubber stamping, surely, and then it didn't pass, and then people were like, what?
And they're going to stick to it as well?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember Diane Abbott voting against that, and I remember thinking, well, even a stopped clock. Right. So, anyway, but Netanyahu said, because the Americans and Blinken and Biden, probably not Biden, Biden's probably asleep most of the time, but Blinken and the Americans putting a lot of pressure on old Nettie to wrap this thing up, because it's embarrassing for all involved, right? And he said, this is their line at the moment, Israel will not allow Hamas to restore its evil rule in the Gaza Strip. Israel will not allow it to restore its military capabilities to continue striving for our destruction. Israel cannot accept a proposal that endangers the security of our citizens and the future of our country. Now, whether you think Israel should exist or not,
can't really argue with that.
You can't argue with that, right? So, for example, let's say Wales tried to secede from our union, or let's say Cornwall. Cornwall had a separatist movement and they were doing terrorist stuff. I would side with the government in Westminster to say something like that. And I wouldn't want to hear from Tel Aviv. I wouldn't want to hear from DC. I don't care if the South Africans bring something up in the UN, right, about it. It'll be our war.
Yeah.
It'll be our struggle, our thing. We reserve the right to deal with it. Thank you very much, right? So I sort of can't blame the Israeli government for being like that. But then that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not on their side as such. I'm not like, they're the goodies or anything. It's a terrible blood feud. Sort of.
No one wins
it's
in war.
like, just get all of it off of me. Get away from me.
Yeah.
Like, it's not our war. And yet it spills out into all of our politics. Like, we must have endless protests on the streets of London For what? So that Rishi can say at some meeting, excuse me, Bibi, would you mind? Our people have decided what you're doing is bad. Can you please stop? And he goes, yeah, no.
I mean, well, again, the local elections. This is a victory for Gaza.
Yeah. Yeah, how, in what possible sense
You're
is
a
it?
local councillor. How is it a win for Gaza?
Yeah.
What? You're going to put Palestinian flags on the bins, are you? Like, how is it a win?
10% of the council budget will now be sent to Hamas. I mean, that would be a win for Gaza.
We're going to send our pothole money to Hamas. Now. Like,
Or
to fill
what
in
are
the
you
craters.
doing?
Or all the hawks in Netanyahu's cabinet see that clip of him going,
Yeah.
going, all right, when I go, oh, yeah, no, right, okay,
so
yeah, that's.
We've got to wrap it up. Trump's
Yeah.
right. We're losing.
It's embarrassing.
There's a
It's
Green
actually
councillor in
embarrassing.
Leeds that's annoyed, so let's pull out of the Gaza Strip.
Sadiq Khan, he said some stuff as
You know,
well.
it's
you know.
absurd, isn't it? It's absurd. Or if there's a next link, John, can you put up the next thing? So you can play it, but without any volume, if that's all right. So what's happened? If anyone's been under a rock for the last 6 months or whatever it is, a few months, the Israelis have sort of occupied most of the Gaza Strip, pushed loads of people down to Rafah, which is right at the bottom, and Rafah is right on the border with the Egyptian.
Oh, they don't want it,
the
do
Egyptian
they?
border, isn't it?
They've also
Yeah.
destroyed pretty much every house by the looks of it.
All right.
But I mean, one of the things I saw that's kind of,
They got nowhere to go.
again, it doesn't really make me care because it's just, again, foreign conflict. But
Mm.
if they find a Hamas fighter, for example, the policy is now to wait for him to go home to his house to bomb him, because then you might get more, because it'll be family members who are also members of Hamas. But that also means killing all the women and children, which is a bit grim, which obviously people are not happy about. So it's why you end up with so many just tower blocks just gone.
Have you seen what this place looked like before?
Yeah.
It looked beautiful. It's
Beaches
crazy.
look quite nice.
Yeah. But I guess my point with that is, because people kept saying, it's an open prison and things like that. It's like,
No.
definitely wasn't.
Yeah, no, definitely
Like,
not.
we've seen video footage of it.
Yeah,
Definitely was not
Yeah.
an open prison.
It's seen worse prison.
definitely looked all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like somewhere you go on vacation, quite frankly. Like,
But
it
there's
actually
this-
looked nice.
There's this thing where you go, look at what the
roaring tourist trade.
It looked nice.
British
They've
tourists.
got good cars.
One struggle, brother.
where there's the sort of undeniably evil things Hamas did on that October the 7th. Was it? Yeah, October the 7th stuff. And then the flip side of that is these pretty harrowing images. And it's like, what do you want from me as an Englishman, though?
Your money.
Like, yeah, it's really bad. Both sides are really brutalizing each other. Yeah. Like, at what point am I allowed to want to wash my hands of the whole filthy business?
Surely.
Am I allowed to do that? I'm not allowed to do that. The Daily Wire and Novara Media, for example, that's just two examples. Now, we're not allowed to just wash our hands of it and try and get on with our lives and all the problems in our country and our lives. They're not allowed to do that.
But our politics is always captured by something else. Always. Like, you track it. Like, we're never actually focused on the issues at hand at home right now. It's always other conflicts, always other places.
Would you mind, John? Can you play this one and actually put the audio on? And it's about a minute and a half, nearly 2 minutes. Jeremy Bowen, BBC Shield, Jeremy Bowen. Yeah, if we watch this for a bit.
Rafah is the most southerly town in Gaza.
Seems quite happy about it, doesn't it? I noticed he's almost smiling
And
in
it's
this
the place where most of the population of Gaza has been fleeing to as the Israelis have advanced from the north. You can see the influx of people from these satellite pictures. Now, you can see the difference. All those little markings.
It's quite
are
remarkable,
tents.
isn't it?
There are about 1.4 million people estimated to be in Rafah. That's 5 times its usual population. They thought they might be safer there, but now Israel says they're going to attack. The Israelis say moving in on Rafah is a military necessity in pursuit of what the Prime Minister calls total victory against Hamas. They want to get into those tunnels.
We're going to get them. 1 meter after another, one tunnel after another.
And as well as that, they want to get more than 100 Israeli hostages back. So many people have ended up in Rafah because they've been pushed down from the north and there's nowhere else for them to go. They've reached the border. They're living in terrible conditions there, exhausted after 4 months of war.
لسه انه الجيش الاسرائيلي بده يتوجه لعمليه عسكريه في الجنوب، وين بدنا نتوجه؟ وين بدهم يودونا؟ ايش بدهم يعملوا فينا؟
The Israelis say that they can open a safe passage for civilians in Rafah, but the man who heads the UN agency that looks after Palestinian refugees doesn't believe them.
We haven't seen any safe haven since the beginning of the war, but there is nothing safe in Gaza.
The problem with Israel's argument is a safe passage to where? North of them, there's the devastation of war and the Israeli army. South of them, there's the closed Egyptian border.
End of segment. Just a closed Egyptian border. Oh, that's the end of that.
Don't want to focus on the Egyptians and why they're not doing anything. No.
Can't we take a load of them, put them in Jordan? No, Jordan won't take any.
Yeah.
Lebanon? No. Syria? No.
It's amazing how they never address it.
The Egyptian border's just closed. That's it. That's the end of that story.
Yep.
Oh. Okay. Okay. It's like, who am I supposed to feel sorry for? Like all those people in Rafah, well, obviously the children are completely innocent, obviously. But they did vote in Hamas, and Hamas launched that thing on October the 7th.
And they've still got the hostages. I mean,
and they've still got those hostages. Yeah, and they've still got those hostages. Like, am I supposed to shed a tear? Like, no. And yet, am I on Nettie's side? No, don't think so. Going about the way they're going about what they're doing, it's like,
it's brutal.
It's just a real, it's a brutal shit show. And we're supposed to pick a side, though.
So which side are you on in the Myanmar civil war that's been brewing? Because there's about 20 sides in that one. For some reason, again, I mean, this is the thing, no one is sitting there being like, well, obviously you've got to side with the Karen Liberation Army, which is a real thing. Because no one gives a crap. It's just because there's a way to make money out of this. I mean, I saw a guy talking about this before. It was like, why is Middle East peace a career path? Because that's sort of weird.
Yeah.
Why would pursuing peace be something you can make a career out of for decades? Because surely your goal is to get the peace and then you're out of a job. That's kind of the job. Instead, no, it's something people just endlessly hark on about or hark on with their entire worldview. Where it's just like, we've only got to talk about Israel, Palestine. We've only got to talk about it. It's like, because that's your world. That's all. That's how you get paid. That's what you do. Fine, but I'm not engaging.
The West has completely screwed themselves with this because, like, who do you villainize here? In the West, who do you villainize, right? Because Russia and Ukraine, it was very easy for Western media to villainize Russia. Oh, big bad Putin, right? Oh, poor little Ukraine. There you go. There's our good versus evil, very black and white narrative. Here, how do you know?
Well, traditionally,
screwed themselves.
The United States would have just been like, we love Israel, but now they've got a new population living there.
Yes.
In the US, which doesn't like Israel.
As do we.
Yeah, and you're told you're morally wrong. You're a monster if you don't sort of pick a side. You know, like the Ben Shapiro types will try and make the moral argument. And then, of course, there's the endless pro-Palestinian side that make out that it's they didn't do nothing, and it's the Israelis that are the demons in this thing. I just don't want anything to do with it, right? Also, just to sort of start wrapping the thing up, I think a lot more people. The point of doing this segment and this take is that a lot more British people, even just if you're just not Israeli or Palestinian, if you're not Jewish or Muslim, should feel free to say that. I think
it's okay to say you don't care.
Don't be bullied into like pretending you have a side.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's a decent message for people.
Yeah, it's okay to be a bit more introspective, a bit more nationalist, and a bit more focused on the issues that we have at home. Like, that's perfectly reasonable. Like,
you're not going to get bullied into taking a side in Myanmar civil war.
Yeah.
So why would you get bullied into this one? It's just...
And a lot of people, probably most people, not that my knowledge is perfect, far from it, but a lot of people won't really know much backstory or much history. You know, I went back to Moses at Mount Sinai in the 7th century first Muslim conquests, right? Most people may or may not know anything about it, let alone sort of the 20th century, like the World War I, Arthur Balfour stuff, and everything since then. Most people, not that they should even, won't really know any of all that. And yet you're sort of forced to pick a side. Come on. Yeah. You don't have to pick a side. That's all I'm saying. So just to start wrapping it up, just what's going on at the moment, in the mainstream news, a lot of them are saying that we're sort of a bit of a What?
Someone in the chat said, "Well, I did put 20 quid on Israel to win, so I kind of have to pick a side."
What odds did you get, though?
He says Paddy Power. I don't know.
Based.
No.
What's the point in war? Betting.
I actually wonder if you could put a bet on that sort of thing.
You're only-
Probably it would be bookies.
You're only 20 wars away from being a millionaire. You just need to pick the right side.
Got a spread bet on all the different types of demographics of civilian casualties. Oh, that's
Christ.
dark.
Double or
That's
nothing.
dark. So at the moment, they're saying they're at a bit of a sort of politically a crossroads because, they've penned them into that Rafah bit right at the bottom of the Gaza Strip. And apparently the Egyptian border is just a no starter.
There's crocodiles. You can't pass it.
There's a wall there. Walls don't really work apart from that one, which is
Made of lava.
yeah, lava wall and alligator moat on the Egyptian border. So again, the ball's sort of in Netanyahu's court. Hamas want a sustainable calm, or what they want is a ceasefire, a permanent ceasefire. In other words, they want to try and surrender, I suppose, in a sense. But it's the Israeli government's position that to have, quote, total victory, that they can't put up with Hamas existing anymore. Their leader has been in hiding ever since. God knows where he is, probably abroad. I doubt he's actually in tunnels in Rafah.
He's in Qatar.
He's in Qatar, okay. Oh, yeah.
Isn't one of the sons of Hamas former founders in the UK, isn't he?
There's some of,
living in
there's some
London
of
housing, social housing.
I know there's some of the leadership and stuff.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's up to the Americans are putting pressure on Netanyahu to sort of come to some sort of decision one way or another, where he's going to go, whether he's going to really stamp it out finally, however brutal that might look, what that might actually look like, or whether he's going to strike a deal with the last remnants of Hamas. Hamas are obviously on the back foot, aren't they? They've obviously taken militarily a pounding.
They're never going to
No, it's a stupid, like strategically, it was an insane thing to do what they did on October. Obviously, in a sort of human sense, it was insane and grotesque, but strategically, it was stupid, right? It was stupid. What are you going to do? What did they think the Israelis were going to do?
Yeah.
Right? You don't give them any other choice but to do something like what they've done. So we'll see all the Iran stuff, because the last time I did a bit about a segment all about Israel and the war, it was more focused on whether they're going to be full-scale exchanges with Iran. That seems to have gone off the boil, doesn't it? They're not talking about that much. Again, Netanyahu could have launched massive strikes against Iran, and he didn't. So whether he's sort of still biding his time on that, or whether that has sort of settled, who knows? But it looks like, something's going to happen in Rafah in the next few days or weeks or so, one way or another. People are saying that the amount of political pressure on Netanyahu to do something one way or another, strike a deal, or not, or
Isn't it amazing?
go full.
It's amazing how everyone's pushing him to peace talks. Sorry, Ukraine, Zelensky, Putin. Yeah, what's going on there? Peace talks? No, that's okay though. That's fine. That endless war is fine. This one, not okay.
Or why isn't the entire Arab Muslim world putting insane pressure on Hamas to give the hostages back?
Yeah.
And to sign something saying that they won't try and kill Israeli citizens at every opportunity. Oh no. Again, that's not really on the table, it looks like, it seems. I don't know. So anyway, don't be bullied into feeling like you have to pick a side on this thing if you haven't got a dog in the fight. So okay, I'll leave it there.
If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as Common Sense Crusade with Calvin Robinson every Thursday. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.